Hello, everyone, and welcome to the spare bedroom. I'm Elliot, your host, and I gotta say that this is my first non-magic video that I'm probably gonna make, and it's for the purpose that Star Wars is messed up, and I would love for them to fix it. I have one solution that they could rectify it. Well, there's actually two solutions, but one of the solutions could be just throw away the film, but the other solution I'll say at the end of the film and of the video, and I'm just going to do a review of The Last Jedi because it sucked and it needs to be changed or rectified in some way. And I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I have been since I was a little kid, and I'm just making this review and warning for spoilers. And also, most of my magic videos, I try not to be vulgar or cuss, but I will be cussing a lot in this film. So if you're like under the age of 18, you get, you're worried, or there's going to be a lot of F-bombs. So this is like a rated R review, as most reviews are. So, but just mainly a lot of cussing. So let's go on to the plot. So first of all, I went to Rotten Tomatoes and I rated this a half a star, and gave it a small review of why it was so horrible. But going to the plot, like you have the the problem is the Force Awakens, you leave off where you're like, okay, so the Resistance is flying away off a planet, and you get oh, everyone's happy, everyone's cheerful, and you think, okay, I don't know how many people were in the Resistance and the Force Awakens, but it seemed like there was a few thousand, and I don't know, so all of a sudden, Poe is like flying over to this Star Destroyer, and in all of the other films that you ever see anything going by a Star Destroyer, they just get shot by one little thing, and like Poe is calling Hux. Like when was that ever a thing where it was Poe is requesting, to the point where he's so like dumb, or like the guy is just like bumbling. Hux is a bumbling idiot. Well, that's kind of like a lazy writing thing, that, oh, okay, so Poe's going to get in and destroy some things, but seriously, one X-Wing? I mean, frick, Luke Skywalker, when he was in the original trilogy, he never had one X-Wing. There was never one X-Wing. There was never 5 X-Wings. There was people dying. There was Y-Wings. There was A-Wings. There was B-Wings. I mean, like, what the heck is this? It doesn't make any sense in Star Wars film, and he tells you your mama joke, which doesn't make any sense in the whole culture of Star Wars. They never have a your mama joke, and it would be so lame as that. Like, Star Wars isn't Earth. You can't like involve Earth culture into Star Wars like how it is. So a your mama joke doesn't even make sense. Something more along the lines of you're gonna go to hell, or take me to hell, would be more relevant, like they do in Empire Strikes Back or something like that with Han Solo. But that was still a little outside, but it's nothing to the point where it was so lame. More of going to hell is, more relates to the audience, but it's not like totally in left field or something. So there's that, and then if they're having, like, if this Resistance is so small and they're just like completely going after a Star Destroyer to take it out, a bigger Star Destroyer, because it's some dreadnought or whatever. Okay, yeah, Poe might have been dumb doing that, I guess, in some ways, but they take advantage of a situation that they had, I guess, because the First Order was bumbling idiots about, oh, your mama joke. So, okay, that was bad. Then you have, like, the only bomber that goes and bombs. First of all, the bomber bottom drop door is like a World War II bomber, and this is space. Space, there's like, there's no oxygen in space. So how is the bomber person able to breathe, or breathe so well in opening a door in space? Or not just that, but the vacuum, or the fact there's a suction coming back into the spaceship. The spaceship would have been blown to bits from the inside out before the bombs could even drop. But the bombs wouldn't drop. You have to force bombs out of a spaceship because it's space. But that just drop like their air on the ground. Like, what? What is that? That doesn't make any sense. Like, Ryan Johnson, like, apparently doesn't know what fucking space is. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It like blew my mind. I was like, am I watching a Star Wars film? What the fuck is this? Like, it didn't make any fucking sense. And then you got like this girl who ends up like kicking this ladder, and it's like, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense, and just at the right time, like, it drops, and boom, and boo, like, I would never imagine that being in Star Wars, though. That doesn't make any, like, the whole kicking of the ladder, and it just randomly, and then they kill themselves. I mean, like, okay, that's not as bad as the bombs, like, the beige doors opening, and then bombs dropping like there's air, and, like, the spaceship would just be blown up from the vacuum. Like, everyone inside should be dead from the lack of oxygen. And secondly, the depressurization of the spaceship with just allowing to drop. And they drop, apparently, and they don't even show, like, if the bombs were just dropping free fall, that's what they looked like. But if they weren't dropping free fall and they had some, like, kind of, like, way to, like, propel them down or into a certain direction, which they didn't look like at all, it looked like they just free-falled, then they should have showed that on the bomb itself when it dropped. But it didn't show that. So it made no fucking sense. So then you get, like, oh, Poe Dameron, like, destroyed that, and, you know, and then you got Kylo, who's like, oh, well, Kylo's actually, like, somewhat of an interesting character, because his character arc actually changes and the acting's not horrific. So, like, he doesn't kill Leia, or he goes and he's like flying around and he's like, oh, I think I'm gonna like shoot, and oh, I decide not to because it's my mother or whatever. They don't really explain it. They just kind of like say, okay, maybe he's like turning to be a good guy. I don't know. And so like then the TIE fighter shoots in and blows up the bridge, and Admiral Akbar's on the bridge. Admiral Akbar is one of the most famous, I mean, like a very famous Star Wars character. And they never mention him afterwards. Not a single fucking character mentions Admiral Akbar, and oh my god, Admiral Akbar died. Like, let's, like, do a funeral. It's like, what is this? Like, Admiral Akbar died, Leia gets blown to bits, and, like, if you've never seen the film, like all the other reviews, you would never believe us, but I swear to fucking god, you would think, like, okay, so if there was an explosion on the bridge in space, and the fact that like the shots fired or the bombs that blow up the bridge didn't touch Leia, and the explosion of any debris, like the glass, the metal, the consoles, the other people, did not touch or damage Leia's body in any fucking way, then Leia's body is perfectly fine, and she's out in space, and she wakes up, and she floats through space back to the spaceship like Mary fucking Poppins. It's like, what is this? That was the most, like, first of all, Leia has been, okay, yeah, she's a Skywalker, she's never been proficient with the Force, she's only ever explained that she had the ability to understand that Luke, like, when Luke is connected with the Force, where kind of, like, he is, that he's okay, and can sense some beings in the Force or people in the world alive or dead. So she understands that, and other than that, they have never explained anything else with Leia at all doing anything with the Force whatsoever. So then she's flying through space like Mary Poppins, and again, spaceship doors open, and they just bring her in. No, like, vacuum being exploded, like the depressurization exploding the ship, or killing the people, or the lack of oxygen killing the people that are bringing her in, like Poe. It's like, wait a minute, what is this movie? Like this isn't a movie by itself. This is a movie in a series, in a long-loved series by well-thought-out writers, and now we get this garbage. Like, what the fuck was that? So I'm just like, what? So then, like Leia's okay, and she just, like, Mary Poppins it through space, and I'm just like, I'm astounded that, like, that even existed. It's like, why? Why is she alive? I would be okay if she died, and throughout the whole movie, she doesn't do anything. She could have been out of the movie and dead for all we care, because she plays no significant part throughout the entire film. It could be anyone else, and it would be totally fine. And then, I'm reading a plot thing. I don't remember the movie exactly. I watched it one time. That's it. I got ripped off, I feel. But so then Admiral Holdo, the pink-haired so-called feminist person, takes over and has a strategy about what to do, because they jump to hyperspace, and then the First Order tracks them through a tracking device, and that has never been explained before. And it's been mentioned in A New Hope, but it's never been like explained. So, and like tracking light speed is maybe a new thing, but maybe that's a new futuristic thing. Who knows? I'm just saying that. So they track them. They jump through light speed, and then the First Order follows them, and then they have no fuel to get anywhere else other than to a slow 2-hour and 30-minute movie of running away just outside the range of the First Order. Because the First Order, who has bigger and better ships and more of them, for some reason, is out of range and drives slower. And then also, the fact that, like, why doesn't the First Order just jump to light speed away and come back with a few other ships and jump in front of them if they're out of fuel and just catch them? That makes no sense, too. Then, so the Admiral Holdo takes over, and then you get her telling us, like, having a strategy, but Poe apparently is getting demoted because of his bombing run strategy, even though you think there's more people in the Resistance and then there's less because of the way it's inconsistent, and then they just say he's reckless and blah blah, and so they don't tell him the plan, and just to make plot conveniences and lazy writing, they just don't tell Poe and say, okay, well, we're going to make drama just to have something to do with the Resistance. So there's more movie to make. That doesn't make any sense. That's just lazy and stupid. Like, and then Finn is trying to get off the ship, and he meets Rose, who is literally put in the movie as an Asian fat bitch who is literally only in the movie just to appeal Asian market audiences, and actually China likes the movie less than us, like a lot less than us. Like 92 or 95% of their theaters took this movie out of their theaters after the first week. So yeah, I would say that that didn't work out for them. And then Rose just stops Finn from trying to run away and says, we're going to do this other thing to help disable the tracking device that's tracking the ship. And we're going to go find a hacker. And they for some reason they call up Maz, which is fine because Maz is like this cultural, like, know-it-all person from the previous movie, and her explanation of why she can't help is she's dealing with union issues, and there's a union debate, and they're shooting each other with bounty hunters, and I was like, wait a minute, union debate? Like, that is never, like, union? Like, the whole idea with bounty hunters being in a union is never, ever, like, been thought of or ever been explained, or why would it even make sense in the first place. But, like, she could have literally said anything else, like, hey, I'm busy, I'm getting shot at. Hey, I'm busy, like, I'm having an extreme bar fight. Hey, I'm busy, someone's trying to take over my bar or something. But no, it's a union debate. And they're shooting each other, so that makes no sense. And then, hold on. So then, they're like, oh yeah, go to this, like, planet, and so you can go, like, it's a rich planet, and this is where you can find a hacker, and blah 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 blah, and, like, and you can find this hacker, and he'll help you disable the tracking device so that the Rebel Alliance can get away. But, you know, we learned that's, like, total bullshit, and whatever. And so Finn and Rose go and, like, they go to the casino planet, and I probably didn't cut to this properly, but let's talk about, like, Luke for a second, and with Rey. So, that whole Luke and Rey scene that I've been waiting 2 fucking years to wait for and be like, oh my god, what is Luke's first words gonna be? Like, oh my god, we've been speculating, the fans have been speculating, like, oh my god, Luke might be bad, like, might be good, he's probably a great Jedi, blah blah blah, like, what's Rey gonna do? Is Rey gonna be good? Is she gonna be bad? What's her flaws? Blah 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 blah, like, oh, like, I was dying to wait for this moment, and it was the one of the biggest disappointments in my fucking life, because Disney fucked us. It was like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, what? What do you mean, whatever? Are you fucking kidding me? Whatever? That would be like, I'd be like, okay, fuck you, Disney. Like, that's how I think about it. Like, you know, you want to troll me? Fuck you, you know? Seriously. Holy shit. That movie pisses me off at that point. And everything, like, afterwards, what they did to Luke Skywalker, he's not even the same character. Like, what the fuck is that? He had 3 movies to develop as a character and grow over time, and they completely fucking changed him as a character. How? How do you do that? And you allow that, too, and you try to sell that. Just to try to make money, and it's not obviously making as much money as you thought. You fuckers. So he flicks it back, and he just says, I'm here to, you know, what are you doing here, basically, and he's like, I'm here to die, like, don't bother me. He, like, goes away, and don't bother me, whatever. And it doesn't even make sense either, because, like, why would you make a map to go find him, go find yourself, if you're just here to die? That makes no sense at all. Why would you make a map? The entire movie before that was all about finding Luke Skywalker to save the galaxy. And finding the map to find Luke Skywalker. And finding all the pieces. That was the entire movie before that. I'm not like a brain scientist over, like neurosurgeon, some genius over here who's like making like random theories and like how like Darth Maul. I'm not making a theory like Darth Maul could be Snoke or anything like that. I'm just like saying like the previous movie said this. And it was very clearly explained, and it was clearly explained in like the most obvious sense. It even said it in the opening credits. And it's like you stop and like it doesn't even make sense. Why does Luke Skywalker want to die? Oh, I want to die. You know, the Jedi were bad. And I'm kind of like jumping all over the place. Luke's part, I think, but like Rey is trying to like plays word games with Luke and doesn't even tell him that she's like force sensitive. I'm here to get trained. She's just like, oh yeah, by the way, Han Solo died. And before you can get Luke's reaction, they cut it, and it's like, wait, what? Like, didn't you want to see that? I wanted to see that. I wanted to see like, yeah, he should be like. I mean, Luke Skywalker was a guy who was all about his friends. Like, if Luke Skywalker was the character he was supposed to be from the original trilogy, the trilogy that made Star Wars, he would have been like, fuck, what? I'm gonna go fucking figure out the galaxy. And no, he's just like, I'm gonna die. Even though Han Solo died, I'm gonna die. Because the Jedi are fucked up. Whatever. So it's like, what the fuck is that? So then, you know, R2-D2 goes and sees Luke, and it was actually like a pretty touching moment. I think, well, hold on. I mean, that might be after, but I'm kind of chopping it up, but R2-D2 kind of persuades Luke to train Rey for whatever reason, with that the heartfelt moment from the original, and it was like, that was like, okay, that was cool, you know, that was interesting by R2-D2, I love that. And then you get like Luke's supposed to train him and teach her 3 things, and he talks about 2 of them and only teaches her 1 thing, and the 1 thing she teaches her about is the Force. It's about like, oh, reach out and like, you know, reach the Force, and that like the whole stick thing where she like gets hit by a stick by him. That was the funniest moment of the movie. I thought that was the best part of the movie. That's pretty fucking sad, and because it was the only thing that like was consistent and was made funny, but not, and it wasn't just like lighthearted. It was, I mean, it was kind of lighthearted, but it wasn't like dumb. But then you get Rey. Then you get Rey getting trained, and he's like, "Don't go to the dark side. Don't go to the dark side." Oh, but I see the dark side, and then she goes to it, and then like, you don't even understand what the dark side is. Like, she doesn't like get mad. She doesn't get upset. She goes to the dark side, and like she goes to the dark side, and you're trying to figure out like, okay, all these other people before people like Anakin and Luke went to the dark side at one point or another, and they looked mad or angry or upset or they looked dark, and Rey just like looks fine, just looks just as vanilla as always, and you're just like, what is that? What are you trying to like? We trying to like? She going back to the light side? I didn't really understand. She went down this dark hole, and it was supposed to be the dark side. It was supposed to be beginning in the middle of the planet or something, or maybe it was like in the middle of her mind. I don't know, or maybe it was just the middle of the Force, but it was very undefined of what it was, and it was just like, well, she didn't really go to it if she doesn't like actually like get corrupted. So it's like, well, what the fuck is that? And of course, like Chewbacca, like had to knock down his door or whatever, like Luke's door, just to get Luke out of the hut at one point before that, and yeah, it was just like there was no emotion by Luke for the most part in the whole film. He's like eating. You see him like eat milk or drink milk off this like platypus thing, and like use this ginormous spear that makes no fucking sense, and to kill fish. And it's like, I mean, I have more fun watching like, you know, Survivor, man, like when they're using the spears and shit. Like I don't need to watch Star Wars and use like him, Luke Skywalker surviving, but so then, you know, Luke at one point Luke confesses like after the dark side, like talks about how the prequel sucked and like the rise of Palpatine and why Vader was bad and blah 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 blah, and then you see like the most like another thing is like the previous movie, Rey was one of the main characters, if not the main character, and she talks extensively in the entire film about who her parents are, what they are, whatever, and they just completely throw it out the window. Like it was like this huge hyped up thing that Rey was supposed to be. I don't even care if she wasn't like a Skywalker. I don't even care if she wasn't a Kenobi. I don't care if she wasn't like a Sith Lord's daughter or something. But it was I could have cared less if her parents were bounty hunters at this point. But they fucking just threw it out the window and said, your parents are nothing. They're just scavengers, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I would have liked to see some faces. I would have liked to see some names. It would have been nice to see them, even if they were nothing, but they don't even show that. It was like, what? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, you hype this up, and then you, like, troll us again. You trolled the fans again. You're trolling the fans that are making you fucking money, Rian Johnson. How about you go fuck yourself? But anyways, so, there's that. Oh, and then there's this whole, like, Snoke is, like, linking the minds of, like, Rey and Kylo during their training or whatever, like from across the galaxy, but you don't know that it was Snoke until later, until like he tells them. And so like you get these like scenes where like Rey is like alone and talking to like Kylo, and they're like having this connection, and they don't know why the connection's happening. Either of them don't know, and like Kylo can, like, Rey can see everything in Kylo's background, but Kylo can't see everything in Rey's background. So it's like, well, I originally thought maybe it was just like the link between them, or maybe because there was something going on with when they fought, or maybe because like he had entered her mind, or tried to enter her mind, but she had entered his mind. And so they have a link because their minds are connected because of that, and therefore Rey, not because she's stronger necessarily, but because she was in his actual mind and saw his thoughts in the previous film. I thought that would have been a very good explanation, like, of why this is happening. But I mean, the Snoke thing is not that horrific. I mean, until like you understand what happens to Snoke later. But I mean, I just think this explanation would have been fine and like plausible. It would have made sense in the Star Wars realm. It would have made some sense, but that's not the case. And then there's just like one scene with Kylo with his shirt off, and it's like, are they just trying to show like the character? I'm like, because the girls think he's just attractive, or because I know a lot of women think Kylo's attractive as like an actor. So are they just trying to show like his like attractiveness? to Rey, or is like to the audience, or is it like more to Rey, like as in like lovers? Because that would have made like some sense as well in some ways if this was actually thought out. So then, let's go back to so Finn here real quick. So Finn and Rose, or Fat Asian Bitch, as most people call her, they're going to this casino planet, and they literally are getting chased by the police officers at the casino planet because they didn't like land their ship properly and pay a parking ticket. Really? They didn't pay a parking ticket? Like, I understand that, like, in like Empire Strikes, so that mirrors Empire Strikes Back like to a T, because that's happened in Cloud City. But in Cloud City, it was more like, you know, we don't approve your landing. So, but it was so similar. And then they're getting chased through this like casino that's like all made up. We'd never seen it before. So okay, we introduced a new world. That's kind of cool, I guess. But the only problem is they just get caught. And it's like, well, why would you show that if they're just getting caught? It just seemed like a social justice or a like a socialist thing, like a political thing that they just showed us, and it just, I hate that. And then you get this whole like, well, if they're caught, like, then they fucking failed, right? Oh, and then BB-8, like, no, let's not talk about BB-8 yet. BB-8 doesn't get caught. Finn and Rose just happen to be, like, conveniently be in the same jail cell as someone who is like the master, is on the level of a master hacker, and yet this guy is still in a cell. Yet he has the card that he swiped off a guard to escape. But yet, why would he still be in the cell if he has the card on him that he could escape? Why? Why? That makes no sense. They never explain that. They never explain why he's still there. That makes no fucking sense. But it was convenient that he was ended up being there. And then BB-8 kills guards with casino chips. Like, really? Like, the droid is killing guards with casino chips. Because the guards couldn't be, like, smart enough. Or maybe because they're not women, they couldn't be smart enough. Because they were just men. I don't know. So then, they use this, they get out, but the master hacker runs away, and they're, like, getting on, they go to this, like, pen where there's these animals that they use, like, I guess, like horses, but they're whipping them constantly, so they're, like, abusing them, and there's these, like, slave children that, like, help them escape, but they don't, like, get the slaves to escape. So what was that? Like, if you're trying to, like, make a point of, like, slavery is bad and, like, whipping animals is bad, but yet you, like, don't save the kid slaves that, like, they're like 6-year-old slaves, and it's what's really crazy. And it's not crazy. It's just poor casting. I think it's just like bad ideas. It's like, why would you make like one slave was white, one slave is Asian, one slave is African American, one slave is like Filipino. It's like, and one was a girl, one was a guy, and like, whoa, like you're just trying to like move like a social agenda here, like that's just. Like, I would have been okay with, like, no white people, all aliens being slaves of different races. That would have been fine. I don't care. Like, it's like, this is just, like, propaganda bullshit that I don't want to listen to. Like, this is Star Wars. What the fuck? And then you don't even save the slaves? And you save the animal? They save the animals just to jump on their backs, and they run away, and while they're running away, they're getting chased while they're on the animals, and then they jump off the animals to get into the ship that the hacker happens to just be there and save them, or whatever, and like off the edge, but yet the animals are still there, so they get caught again and they're still being whipped. It's like, well, that didn't prove any fucking point. If you were trying to make a point of like no slavery and just like what was that? That was just like a bullshit plot at that point. So then they get to this guy named DJ, who, you know, the actor I think actually did a decent job on him. And they like tell him like, hey, we're part of the resistance and we need you to like help us and we need you to disable this. Like thing on the ship and blah blah blah, and so then they go back to the First Order. In the meantime, there's still the slow chase that's going on, and Poe at this point like takes over, like while this is happening, takes over the Resistance ship and takes over from Holdo, the female, and like has a coup, and he like takes over the ship because he's like, this idea is fucking stupid because you won't tell me the idea. Well, I am just gonna take over and get a better idea because I think we're just gonna run out of fuel and die. So it's like, obviously this is fucking stupid. So then, if she would have just told him, there would have been this fucking coup. And that's like so dumb because in Star Wars there's never been a point where they just like, they were always like on the Resistance. It's the Resistance. They're like the good guys. They talk it out first and then they shoot later. Like obviously the bad guys are just like if you didn't do what I say, I'm gonna kill you. Like, so it's like, why is the good guys making no sense of all their characters? They don't even make sense on their characters. It's so dumb. So then, so Holdo's out. She goes to prison on the ship or whatever, and then while Poe is like taking over and trying to figure out what to do, Leia miraculously wakes up with no injuries to her body at all. Never mentioned why she wasn't injured. Still, again, about all this bullshit. And miraculously gets to the bridge and stuns Poe without even knowing the situation that they're in or why Poe took over in the first place and stuns him? Really? Leia? Leia took over. She couldn't just be like, go up to Poe and be like, hey, I'm back in charge. I'm back alive, you know, like, hey, no, like, because, like, obviously Poe is too stupid to realize that Leia is in charge, and that Leia would be the leader, even though that he was looking up to her as the leader just previously, like an hour ago in the film. So it's like, why would Leia have to take back over the ship, even though she was the leader and respected leader before that? It's like, that doesn't make any sense. It's so inconsistent. Oh, this movie. And then, of course, this is earlier in the film, but Poe mentions to someone else, like, oh, that's Holdo? That's from the Battle of blah, blah, blah? Like, oh, I didn't know who Holdo was. But the problem is that, like, in The Force Awakens, I thought, you know, the Resistance was thousands, maybe a few 10,000 people, because, you know, of the Resistance, because, you know, the Republic was remaining supreme for 30 years, but that doesn't mean the Resistance was. But still, like, you would imagine that even after 4 planets got destroyed, there would still be a few 10,000 people in the Resistance, even though they're, like, scattered, maybe not all in the same place. But in Rian Johnson's mind, it's like 1,000 people at most at the very beginning of this movie. So how does Poe not realize who this other person is if there's only 1,000 people in the Resistance? Makes no fucking sense. Like, absolutely bullshit. So then, let's go back to Luke and Rey real quick. I know I'm, like, jumping all over the place here. I don't know the plot, like, again, like, I don't know the plot exactly how it happened, step by step. So, at one point, Luke is... So yeah, Luke catches Rey with the Kylo scene and tells her to stop, and then Luke refuses to help her anymore, and then oh yeah, so there's this whole scene where Rey, before all that, is upset with Luke, or you know, I'm not sure exactly if it's before all that, but is upset with Luke to the point where, like, why aren't you connected to the Force? And like, because apparently Luke this whole time is not connected to the Force, so like he doesn't even know that like Han had died because he wasn't connected to the Force. So like, okay, I could kind of understand that. Like, you don't understand that someone's dead because they're not, but I would think that he would connect himself back into the Force to understand that maybe he was really dead and she wasn't just bullshitting. But maybe there was a better explanation. Maybe he was like trying to protect himself by not being with the Force because maybe he could be found easier by other people. But if he doesn't really care that he's found by other people because he just wants to die, then why wouldn't he just connect himself with the Force? So like, that doesn't all make sense because If he doesn't really care, if he wants to just die and he doesn't give a shit, then why doesn't he just connect himself with the Force? Because he just wants to die anyways. That, again, makes no sense. But anyways, Rey ends up having a stick fight with Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker has been in three movies, well-developed character, has been training since the very first movie ever existed with a lightsaber. I understand they weren't fighting with a lightsaber, but still, they were fighting and with sticks, Rey and Luke. And Luke fought Darth Vader twice, has been trained by 2 Jedi Masters, and Yoda and Obi-Wan. And Rey beats him with a fucking stick. It's like, what? Mary fucking Sue. And it's, what's so bad about Rey's character is the actor. The actor is just like, well, Rey's strong, and that's why she won, because she's strong. And it's like, what? What? Like, you should be fucking fired. Your character should be fucking killed at this point. You are so fucking dumb. You don't even deserve to be in this fucking universe. How dumb you are. It's like, you fundamentally don't understand what Star Wars is all about. You are fucking so fucking retarded. So, Daisy Ridley, you don't ever need another acting job because you suck. But like Rey is stronger. I was like, what? Rey is stronger? Like, Luke Skywalker has been studying the art of like lightsaber and the non-canon. He had like knew all the forms of lightsaber combat, all 7. So it's like, wait, so Luke Skywalker lost a stick fight with a girl who's just someone who has no significant parents, just someone, and doesn't really know anything, and in the time span within the 2 movies, it's been maybe a fucking week total. That means in a week in the last week she didn't know what the Force was and didn't believe in Luke Skywalker, and yet bested him with a fucking stick and got him to the ground just to get him back into the Force and like to be reconnected. Really? That was just like, really. So yeah, that was bad. And then the whole thing where, and then the whole thing where Luke is give me a second. The whole thing with Kylo and Rey was that Rey was trying to understand why Kylo went evil, and for whatever reason, they couldn't like have a well thought explanation on like why he was evil. There's like a million possibilities of why someone could go evil or go mad or go bad or just getting tricked or something. But it was so like made no sense. It was like, what? This isn't a Star Wars movie. After I saw this, this is not like a Star Wars. I don't even consider this canon of this whole movie because it's so bad. Luke Skywalker, who is like Kylo explains that, oh yeah, my mentor tried to kill me, and like let him explain and blah blah blah, and it's like, oh yeah, Luke Skywalker, I went evil because my uncle tried to kill me because he saw a glimpse of evil in me. I'm like, what? A glimpse of evil in you, in a good person? Your uncle tried to kill you? Like, no, I did that. That's like bullshit. Because in the previous film, it was all about Snoke getting to him first. It was like, that kind of makes sense if like maybe like Kylo went on a mission by himself without Luke Skywalker, or maybe they went together, but Luke was like trapped for some reason and couldn't get away, and Snoke took Kylo on, or maybe like messed with his head constantly and then took him on when they were separated. That would make more sense. But no, you would actually think that would have some good writing to it. But no, of course not. You have the person who has been good all his character arc in 3 films, well-developed character. He wasn't just a character you just brought in. Well-developed character from 30 years ago. 30 years ago in Star Wars lore. He convinces his father, which is the second most evil person in the entire galaxy of billions of people, who has murdered people and killed people and tortured people just for the fuck of doing it, because that's what he liked to do. And he saw a glimmer of fucking good in his father, and saved him and got him back on the good side. And not only that, but to the point where his father saved him because he threw down his lightsaber and said, I am not turning to the dark side. I would rather die. And it's like, what? So now Luke Skywalker saw a glimmer of bad in Kylo and said, well, he's just going to turn dark, so I might as well kill him. And like, he's like, yeah, I went to the dark side because my uncle was standing over me with a lightsaber and thinking about killing me. Like, I don't think that would be that bad. Like, I think that's why that's why Kylo's character arc is so interesting. He's like a reckless little kid, and he doesn't understand if he's good or bad because he's not really bad. He's really a good guy that is like on the wrong side of the war and just doesn't understand how to get back on because. But then it doesn't even make sense because after that he just turned totally fucking evil after all the end of the movie. She's trying to kill everyone. So it's like, what? It's like laughable how bad it is. But then you get to like, so then like, Rey's like, oh, well I gotta go like face Snoke and get Kylo back because obviously he's not evil. Because obviously, you know, like, there's good in him still. I'm gonna try to turn him because I've known him for like, I just met him like 3 days ago on a planet where we had a lightsaber duel. And I've never known him before that. I didn't even know the Force before like a week ago, but I'm gonna try to turn him. Because I was in his head a couple days ago. And we had this moment where we had a lightsaber fight, and we've had these moments, like, reminiscing in these, like, mind experiences, where it's like, okay. So you've known a guy for 3 days, and you're trying to say, I don't want to love him, I'm going to convince him to turn good, and not kill people anymore, even though he's been doing it. And he even killed his own father. So, yeah, good luck with that. Like, if anyone's going to do it, it's probably going to be Leia or Luke. But no, of course not. No, don't do that. And so, Rey takes off, and then Yoda, and then before Luke tries to go burn, there's this like tree on the island, they don't even explain what it is, but they have like some books on it or whatever, and it's supposed to be books from the old Jedi Order, and Luke just has them to like read them, and because it's supposed to be the original Jedi Temple there, and you just like, okay, well they didn't even open a book the whole time, I don't think, and if they did, it didn't do anything, and so he goes and burns these books, and like, Yoda appears out of fucking nowhere, and fucking takes lightning out of the sky and burns it as a Force ghost! Lightning! Force lightning as a Force ghost! I was like, what is that? Like that's, again, something that came out of fucking left field, never explained, never been ever been done in Star Wars ever to date, and they just, like, created it. So if Yoda can use Force lightning as a Force ghost, why didn't he just kill, like, Vader, Palpatine, all the bad people? Like, why don't people just die and kill other people as Force ghosts? Like, makes sense, right? Oh, if you're out in line, psip! Okay, now you're a Force ghost with me. Again, makes no sense. So then, yeah. So, but Rey apparently, at the end of the film, you see the books in the Millennium Falcon, but, then, so Luke is like, okay, whatever, and so then Rey goes to the ship that Finn and Fat Asian bitch is on, and, apparently they don't even see each other, and Rey doesn't even get caught by the First Order, or she gets caught, and she gets taken to the throne room with Kylo, and she's like really rebellious about it, and she's trying to like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fight you, and we're gonna turn you good, and Snoke like rips her around the room. Like, Snoke is like portrayed so well, he's great acting. They don't portray him very well as a character, but it was like, wow, like there's so much mystery behind him. They don't explain him who he was, where he came from, why he's good with the Force, where he was taught. Nothing explained by this character at all. They just explain that he's a leader of the First Order and that he's extremely proficient with the Force without even like explaining himself. But then, so that, I mean, no, whatever. But my point is that she beforehand he is able to force choke someone through a hologram, which is light years away. He was able to use force lightning on Kylo like a little bitch and be like, why were you defeated by a girl who doesn't even have lightsaber training? That was earlier in the film. And treats him like a little bitch, and makes him like basically like bash his mask away, which everyone liked the mask. And then you got problems like okay, well, then you have the whole rips him around the room without even like moving. Like most people, like even Darth Vader being very, very strong and proficient with the Force, and even Palpatine to a degree had to use their hand out or whatever. He's just like this, just like chilling, and be like, yeah, I'm gonna look at you. We're gonna go around, and then like goes like this and goes, okay, we're gonna like mind fuck you and get all the information out of you. That's the only time she even uses the Force, like with his like actual actions. Other time it's just like a thought, like, okay, so that means he's extremely powerful with the Force, and then makes Kylo, takes Rey's lightsaber, like the Anakin Skywalker lightsaber, and tells Kylo, kill her now, kill your enemy. And like this guy is being so like they just make him being a bumbling idiot because it just makes no sense that Snoke gets cut in half by a lightsaber because he didn't see the lightsaber that is right next to his hand, probably touching his hand, cut him in half. And what's wrong about that is it could have been an interesting plot twist, but it didn't go anywhere. Because Rey and Kylo, who was kind of actually cool, they ended up fighting the Praetorian Guards that were never explained other than they were Praetorian Guards. You didn't even know that they're called Praetorian Guards if you didn't actually read in the backstory of the lore a little bit, of the, I guess, the novelization of this movie or whatever. Not the novelization, but there's like a magazine that tells you about this. And so, that's kind of like bad that they don't explain it, but it's like, okay, these guards don't have lightsabers, but they have like weapons that can block lightsabers and whips and whatever. That's kind of a cool scene. But the problem is like afterwards, and Rey actually saves Kylo at the end of the fight and kills a guy. So instead of like Kylo being like, oh, thank you, like maybe we should go off together or do something or go back to the good side, because like Kylo is actually portrayed as a good guy. Like if you think about it, like it's a well thought out character. If you thought about the movie, actually like you're trying to be like a well thought out character, Kylo is actually a good guy. But he ends up being a bad guy because he's like, hey, join me. And then she's like, no. And then they fight over the lightsaber, and it gets splits into two. Because they're evenly using the Force as even. Even though, like, Rey has had, like, literally hours of training, at best. At best. And, like, Kylo's been training for years. And yet you've got, like, yet he's like not. He's like even. And it's like makes no dumbass sense. Because like at this point in the Force Awakens, he was injured. He was shot by Chewbacca, and that's why, like in my opinion, that's why like the lightsaber fight was kind of even or more in favor of Rey because he was injured. Now they're just on like equal terms, and actually Kylo should be feeling more dark side than ever because he's in his own like home, and like the ship is his own place. There's like his own shit around him, like it's all bad guys, and ends up blowing up, and Rey ends up getting off the ship, and they don't even show how she gets off the ship at all. And then just this whole fucking thing is so stupid. But so then Finn and Fat Asian Bitch gets caught because obviously DJ is working for the First Order because he gets paid better through them. Okay, whatever. And also because there's another BB-8 like unit that's bad that catches them and sees that they're like wrong or whatever. And what I've loved to see is the BB-8 and the other BB-8 like kind of fight or something like that. But makes no sense. Like this character that fucking flies out of nowhere and just like does something. So then you have Captain Phasma's there again, alive. It's not explained on how she's alive, even though she was stuck in a trash compactor back on the planet that blew up from the previous film. Okay, so how is she alive? Oh, they don't explain it. They just like she's conveniently there, and her armor still looks good. like graphically, and then like she gets into a fight with Finn because BB-8 can somehow control a AT-ST or a chicken walker. And it's like, well, wait a minute, that has never been happened before, and that seems like an awful convenient thing to be able to do. So then, you got that going on, so it saves Finn, conveniently saves Finn. And then you have Finn and Phasma fight because, of course, he's a traitor and they have to fight and they have to make it look good. And then, like, she dies within 30 seconds or less, and it makes no sense because she's supposed to be this profound combat expert, and he has had, yeah, probably combat proficiency in a lot of his years, but she is like the general. It's like, why is the general losing? Because it's just convenient? Okay. Like, she should never come back for another film because she's clearly died twice now, and if she comes back and there's like no explanation why she didn't die twice, then or why she didn't die twice, then it makes no fucking sense. And then DJ is still alive, and Hux is still alive, and Hux is getting bullied by Kylo because Kylo's now in order, and Snoke's gone, and Kylo's making Hux his little bitch, and he's just like, yeah, Snoke's gone. I'm your master, your boss now. You can either serve me or pretty much die, or I'll fucking go off on you. So, yeah, whatever. So then Finn and that Asian bitch go back to the fucking the Resistance, and the Resistance plan was, let's get on these transport ships and let's transport away while cloaked while going to Crait, which is actually a planet that wasn't talked about in other movies, but it's talked about in like the non-canon lore now. So that's a thing, I guess, because if Disney is acknowledging some non-canon lore, well, why shouldn't they acknowledge all non-canon lore? But if they did, Luke Skywalker wouldn't be fucking dead. Sorry. Or the way he did, and he wouldn't be fucking the character who they made him out to be. So it's totally fucking inconvenient. Then so then they're transporting away and they're cloaked, but obviously DJ got told about the Resistance, so they're shooting at these like cloaked ships, but then all of a sudden Holdo is the last person on the ship, so she turns the ship around and jumps in, and somehow you're able to turn the ship around. A giant fucking cruiser ship who is driving as slow as fucking possible turns their ship around and conveniently doesn't get still. And that whole time she's turning around while the other ships are approaching her. So if the ships are like this and they're going like this and the range is here and they're still catching up to it in the slow chase, how does this ship turn around and able to jump into hyperspace in the time that the First Order it doesn't also catch up and get in range to shoot this ship? So that doesn't make sense. And there's not like one Star Destroyer ship after this one cruiser. There's like 8. I don't know, it doesn't really show all of them, but there's like a bunch of them. There's like a ginormous, like super Star Destroyer that Snoke was a part of, and then there was like 4 or 5 other smaller Star Destroyers. So it's like in this whole time, like, you didn't have any one of those ships shoot at this cruiser that was turning around, that was not just slowing down, but turning around and coming at you and jumping into hyperspace. And for some reason, I gotta say the shot was awesome in theaters, especially in 3D. It was pretty beautiful that the hyperspace shot was. It was beautiful, like, graphically, but that's it. That's it. Because it doesn't make any sense! In Star Wars, if hyperspeed was a weapon, then why didn't they just shoot TIE fighters into the Death Star? Like, holy shit! Like, the Death Star would have been blown up! Because they would just shot it exactly where they needed to shoot the friggin' the torpedoes. So, that doesn't make any sense. Like, so, Snoke's ship gets cut almost in half, like two-thirds here, 1/3 there, because the cruiser, hyperspace jumps into the other ship, and it's like, wait a minute, that makes no fucking sense. Zero sense in Star Wars lore. And it has to be Holdo, but it should have been Leia, because she served no purpose in this movie, and it would have been much better for Leia to be doing that. And at least her character would have died, like, doing something good. and nice or whatever. So Holdo's dead. I'm happy. Okay, I'm totally okay with that. And it just like seems like, okay, well, why did that happen? And so then they go to Crait, and there's like literally like it's like salt, like white salt, and they're literally just like remaking the Empire Strikes Back original opening with the little small ships that are clunky, that drive slow on salt, and they're dusting up the salt with these little anchors, and there's like red rust color underneath the mineral rock or whatever, and because there's salt on the surface, so it's white and then like red underneath. So I mean that the graphics again were kind of interesting, but again it was just a total rip from another Star Wars movie. And the First Order is of course down there with giant walkers and everything, and they're going down there and they're getting to the base, and this is like an old Resistance base that was previously used. And hold on a second. Finn, that Asian bitch, that whole... They're there. They're in cruisers. Poe's in a cruiser. Leia's like in the bunker. There's other people in cruisers, and they're trying to take out, First Order like walkers. Not it's AT-AT walkers, like not the little chicken walkers, the big ones. Just like an Empire. And Kylo and Hux is down there in the same one. And he's like telling Hux, shoot at them, fuck yeah, fuck those people up, we're gonna fucking kill them all. It's like, what the fuck? How is he wanting to kill everyone if he's like a good guy? And he would like, that makes no sense. He's like, oh, let's just kill everyone, like no bad guys, no good guys, let's like kill all the, let's just kill all the good guys, so there's just bad guys, but it's like good and bad, but if I'm a good guy, why would I care to kill everyone, especially my mom? He's like, let's just throw it all down the drain. So then, like, there's this giant cannon that is able to crack the door off this base, and there's like, that's the only way in or out of this base. So it's like, oh, that sucks for the First Order, or not for the First Order, the Resistance. So like, Finn is like, oh, I'm just gonna fucking suicide run it into this cannon thing and I'm just gonna like get it, and that would have been such a good thing, because his character was a waste this whole movie, and if he would have died, it was like, oh, okay, that's good, something like decent or whatever. But no, like the fat Asian bitch smashes her ship into his little ship. For one, that doesn't make sense because they both could have died by just smashing the ships together. Secondly, they could have died just by the landing of the ships or whatever. They both are not like damaged at all. He was literally within 50 yards of the cannon. But that also means they're in 50 yards of all the enemies. Like all the AT-ATs that they didn't take down at all. And they didn't even have the little speeders. They didn't have good enough speeders to have the little rope thing. They didn't even have that. They just had a little thing shooting at them. So it's like, whoa, that's real bad. So then they're in 50 yards of everyone, and no one decides to shoot at them. And Finn literally gets told by fat Asian bitch that's like, oh, we save people because we have to love, or you have to love the people you save, or some shit like that. And it's like, how do you save people when if Finn did this, he would have saved everyone, and if everyone's dead, then why would you save people? That's fucking makes no sense again. Dumbest fucking shit in the earth. And it's not thought out. and all of a sudden you see Rey cut within the Millennium Falcon with Chewbacca and Porgs, and it's funny because earlier in the film, Chewbacca's on Ahch-To, and he's eating a Porg. He's literally eating a fucking Porg in front of other Porgs, and the other Porgs cry. And yet somehow he is able to get the other Porgs on the Millennium Falcon without them being afraid that he's gonna eat more of them. And I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know. They're bromance, and he just eats one at a time. I don't know what. That doesn't make any sense. They're just they're cute little things that get eaten by Chewbacca is what I thought about them. And they're just annoying as hell. And uh, so then yeah, they're like fighting TIE fighters in the air and like throughout the planet, and they're getting the